In today's episode, we're going to be talking about some really dark topics in really honest, open, and transparent ways. So, this might be an episode that you want to listen to with headphones on or when you have a little bit more privacy. I also want to remind you that you have my full permission to click off this episode if it is too triggering for you. I'm going to be sharing my own experiences and the things that helped me. I'm at by no means telling you what to do or telling you that the things that you're doing are either right or wrong. I'm just sharing my own life experiences. And I just want to remind you and encourage you that your wellness is always the number one priority. It should be your number one priority. It's definitely my number one priority. And if this is too triggering for you, if it's bringing up thoughts or not feeling good in your body, you don't even have to be able to explain it. You don't need to listen to this whole entire episode. You have my permission to click off at any time, and I have tons of other content that is a lot more comforting, a lot less triggering, and very, very healing if that's something that you feel like you need right now. Another thing that I want to make sure that I mention before we really dive into things is that this is not healing for you in itself. This is just an episode of me sharing my own personal story. And for so much of my spiritual journey, I thought that I was healing by listening to stories that were validating for me or stories of other people healing. And I just want to remind you of that I'm so grateful to be sharing this with you, and I also hope that it inspires you to do your own healing work and to really dive in to your own shadows and become the healthiest and best version of yourself as well. Now, even though I am a professional spiritual coach and a professional holistic healer, these stories are very, very vulnerable and they're very sacred and they're not always easy to share. Honestly, it's a beautiful day outside and there's so many other things that I know I would rather be doing right now rather than sitting here for hours behind a camera talking about some of my deepest and darkest things of my life, as well as healing experiences and things like that. But the motivator that I have for sitting down and talking with you about these topics today is that I know that these stories can help someone out there. I wish so badly that there was an episode like this for me to listen to when I was going through the darkest depths of my own journey. And that's why I'm here filming this today. So I really, really would appreciate if you could take some time to show your support for my content for this episode. Give it a like, make sure that you're subscribed wherever it is that you are watching this. Make sure that you're following me and really commenting on my recent posts, sending likes, things like that. I know that it seems like just a little thing that isn't a big deal to just like someone's post, to comment on it, to react to their story, but these sorts of things make a huge, huge difference for me. I see everything that you do. I receive the love, I receive the support, and yes, it really does inspire me and motivate me and make me feel even more confident to share more episodes like this. So my goal for my podcast is to be able to start sharing multiple episodes a week, and the more you're able to support these episodes, the more you're able to support my content, the more episodes that I can share. So I know it seems like it's not a lot, but it really is a lot to me, and I would really appreciate if you could just take some time to do that real quick before we hop right into everything and anything and everything. Let's just jump in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about my experience with suicidal ideation and how I healed this. I know that depression comes in lots of different flavors, lots of different levels, and I have experienced mental health issues, depression in the form of suicidal ideation for honestly as long as I can remember. And when I've shared that with people over the years, just people in the public, sometimes people don't even believe me because this is something that is considered like an invisible illness. For the people who experience this and struggle with this, it's something that is not it's not obvious visually. And for someone who has very high functioning depression, which I had for most of my life, you can really slip between the cracks. I was constantly getting good grades. I was constantly doing super, super well. I look so put together. My life looked so put together on the outside. And when my life actually looked the most put together on the outside was when I was struggling the most on the inside. I'm so grateful that I got to start therapy and getting professional help at such a young age. I started at like 8 or 9 years old, and I was introduced to meditation right away, and I'm so grateful for that. But 20 years later, I was still experiencing the same things that I was experiencing at 8 or 9 years old. I was literally in a battle every single day, battling these thoughts, battling impulsive tendencies, and just honestly feeling so exhausted. It was so draining to fight my own thoughts, to show up in the way that I wanted to show up in the world. And I honestly was not always amazing at that. There were definitely classes that I almost failed just because it was so hard to balance it all, and I couldn't even explain what I was experiencing throughout this time. Eventually, after 20 years of meditation, I was led to plant medicine because I just could not shake these feelings, even though I was doing everything that I possibly could to feel better. Now, throughout my entire life of experiencing high functioning depression, there were times that I was conscious of my suicidal ideation, but for most of the time, what it really looked like was just living a really busy life, not ever being able to relax or slow down, constantly thinking about the next thing that I have to do, and trying to really avoid these feelings. The second that I would slow down in order to go to sleep at night, I would literally start to hyperventilate and start having anxiety and panic attacks. I had horrible insomnia. I would take things in order to help myself go to sleep better. And when I would stop being so busy and try to meditate or something like that, I was also flooded with just really uncomfortable sensations. Something that was really common is the second that something would happen out of plan or unexpected, I would feel so incredibly triggered. I literally felt like overwhelmed with emotion and just so triggered. Friendship conflicts, relationship conflicts, all of these things made me feel like the world was absolutely ending. So not only was I keeping myself super busy, but I also learned to keep most of this a secret. Even though I was getting a lot of professional help, I was always in therapy groups, women's groups, and things like that, and I'm so grateful for that. When it came to sharing my life online, when it came to meeting people in the gym, right? I was a fitness influencer at one point. I was a competitive athlete. So I really had this I was meeting lots of people in the gym. I was spending all of this time at fitness expos and things like that. And I would keep all of this a secret because I was ashamed. I was so embarrassed that this was my life behind the scenes. I really felt so much imposter syndrome because the lifestyle that I was portraying of health and fitness and alignment and wellness was not something that I was feeling at all on the inside. At the time that my content was doing so well on Instagram with health and fitness, nobody knew that I was posting the one part of the day that I did not feel like ending at all. And because I lived such this black and white double life of feeling so depressed but really wanting to feel so happy and posting something that made me feel so happy and so proud of myself and trying so badly to shine my light in the world, I could see very clearly that there were other influencers doing this too, that I was not the only person that was portraying this image that was very positive and very happy, even though I was feeling very dark and very negative, and I didn't have an outlet for that. I didn't know where to put these feelings. So I was really battling them, and I was trying so hard to make them small, keep them in this small box, and the box was constantly exploding in the form of panic attacks, anxiety attacks, getting OCD attacks, getting really intense about the way that certain things are, the way that my towels are folded, right? Things that aren't even a big deal. I really just want to paint a picture of what high functioning depression looks like in your everyday life, because I did not realize that the way that I was behaving was actually an embodiment of my depression. And even though I was diagnosed with depression, even though I was literally in recovery for depression and therapy, doing everything that I could, I didn't realize that these behaviors were my depression. I was extremely sensitive, and I've always been really sensitive. I don't think that this is a flaw or a bad thing the way that we've been told or taught, but I was hiding behind this kind of in like a victim mindset sort of way. So any little thing would make me literally completely spiral out of control, or at least just like have a really bad day or a hard day. Some examples of that are like if my eyeliner would get messed up, if I would have allergies and start tearing and like my eye makeup just would get messed up, or if the wind would blow and would blow my hair into my lip gloss, if that was happening like constantly throughout my morning walk or something like that, I just knew that it was going to be a bad day. So you can imagine if these little things were getting to me, that when I was not getting the opportunities that I wanted, when I was not getting the exact perfect date scenario, the exact thing that I wanted in my mind, I would get so upset, and I didn't know how to handle these emotions. I'm honestly so grateful for feeling that imposter syndrome so heavily during that time. I'm so grateful for feeling just like so frustrated with myself, because that is all that it took for me to want to do whatever it takes in order to feel better. I was just so tired of feeling the way that I was constantly feeling. And I had spoken with people my whole entire life about this, and everyone was always just normalizing it. So many people will normalize these feelings and just say, oh, like, just try again next time, just hope for the better, just pray about it, or something like that. And I was experiencing something so much deeper, and it took me a lot of deconditioning work in order to no longer have my red flags painted green, and to be able to really feel that this is wrong. This is not how I want to feel. This is not how I want to live. And I'm going to do something about it. If I'm the creator of my reality, then this is the reality that I've somehow created unintentionally. And now I want to get intentional and create a reality that actually does not make me feel so triggered and so awful all the time. Throughout this process, I became really obsessed with material things. When I would buy something new, it would give me a sense of hope. It was like the only time that I could actually feel hopeful about my life. And this is so much deeper than a mindset thing. Like, this isn't something that can be fixed in a mindset coaching call, because what we're talking about here is actual brain damage that happens in childhood. When you experience complex trauma or anything that results in CPTSD, which honestly I have yet to meet an adult that is around my age that does not have CPTSD, just due to the media at the time that we were children and things like that. We were constantly being exposed to things that were a little bit more mature than our age level and things like that. So the way that that changed my brain is that it created something for me called foreshortened future, which is the idea that my brain cannot picture myself in my own future. It is literally impossible for my brain to imagine myself a week from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, and it creates a lot of anxiety. So the way that I can fix this is, of course, with neuroplasticity practices, subconscious reprogramming, and things like that. But it's really valuable to understand that our brains are actually changed by our upbringing, and that we can do things in order to help our brains. But if you struggle with time management, or if you struggle with planning ahead, maybe you also struggle with this concept of foreshortened future. So everything I'm talking about here really contributes to a person's overall stress levels. If you can kind of think of your body, including your brain and your nervous system and everything that makes you you, if you can think of that as a bucket, and that bucket gets filled with water, which is like a metaphor for stress, you're getting filled with an overwhelming amount of stress, and you're constantly overflowing this stress in your behavior and in everything that you're doing, even though you're trying so hard to manage it all. Becoming really obsessed with material things was how I escaped from this. Being into the new bikini that I was getting was how I was able to imagine myself wearing that bikini in the future, getting that new outfit. I always made sure to have a Starbucks in my hand so that my hands were busy and I couldn't be like fidgeting around or even noticing that I had self-harm scars on my body and that my hands were responsible for doing things like that to myself in the past. So from the outside, I looked so put together. I cannot even tell you, I was constantly getting stopped when I would go to Starbucks, when I would go absolutely anywhere, and I would be getting clients through this way. It was really beautiful. People were always asking me how I had like the most amazing abs and asking me for makeup tips and asking me for all of this different sorts of advice, and had no idea that when I would go home and be alone with myself or alone at night, I would have panic attacks, OCD attacks, depression attacks, conflict with my family, conflict with loved ones, and just feel like so out of alignment. I had so much shame. I felt like I was living a double life, but I didn't have another choice. I was already getting as much professional help as I possibly could. So I was doing the best that I could, and I started to develop a shame-based identity through all of this. And I want you to look that up if you haven't already or if you don't know those terms, because I literally, like, my self-identity was rooted in shame, not rooted in my heart, not rooted in my soul's desires or God's desires for me in this lifetime or anything like that. Shame, embarrassment, imposter syndrome, perfectionism, these things really ruled my life. And I had always been fighting perfectionism. That was something that I was very aware that I had. I had no idea that the perfectionism that I was experiencing was actually a lot more similar to OCD. And I say that because the obsession with doing things the right way, the obsession with being a good person, the obsession with all of this stuff, it's such an insane obsession that like overtakes your mind and overtakes you, even if you're not aware of it, just subconsciously it can overtake you. And you can know if you're experiencing this just by how you're feeling in your body as you're listening to all of this. For 20 years, even though I was trying so badly to tap out of this, to break out of this cycle, I was constantly in this cycle because I had a shame-based identity. So I was choosing friends and choosing partners that were also mistreating me, and they were reflecting to me how I was feeling about myself. It made sense for them to mistreat me because I felt like that is what I deeply deserved deep down. And ultimately, because my comfort zone was really, really comfortable with being mistreated, with being spoken down to, all of that, because I was comfortable treating myself that way, that is how I kept myself stuck in this loop. I felt like I could not snap out of drama, of conflict, of any of these patterns, and I didn't even know where to start when it comes to breaking all of this apart. Like, what book do you read if this is what you're experiencing? What do you ask for in therapy? Like, there isn't a clear-cut answer here. In 2020, I had one of my biggest spiritual awakenings, and I not only learned about astral travel and Kundalini awakenings. I didn't only read all of the declassified CIA documents on remote viewing, astral travel, energy fields, like all of that stuff, but I also learned about shape-shifting reptiles. I also learned about politics. I also learned about all of these different things in the conscious space. And in learning all of this truth, I also learned that everything I was experiencing actually made sense. The constant underlying feelings of stress and anxiety that were causing me to feel so reactive and so out of control of my life, they all made sense. Because what was actually happening is that I was feeling all of the feelings of this earth. I just didn't know what I was experiencing. So it just was coming through consciously as just a lot of overwhelm. My brain it did not have the capacity to sort through all of this information on top of everything that I was dealing with in my everyday life. The more that I leaned into the spiritual awakening, the more I realized that the stress, the anxiety, the depression that I was feeling were a lot of the feelings of my ancestors. They were a lot of the feelings of this earth, of my sisters from lifetimes and lifetimes ago, as well as my own feelings from lifetimes ago. The more that I dove into this, the more that I realized that all of the blockages that I am experiencing in this lifetime are actually patterns that are continuing to be played out from past lifetimes, or they're evolutionary patterns that are being played out through me in this lifetime. When I was experiencing different dark chapters of my life, what was really happening was I was playing out these old evolutionary patterns. So when I found myself in a toxic relationship, when I found myself jobless or houseless, what was actually happening here is I was experiencing the fear to be seen. I was experiencing the fear of sharing my gifts. I couldn't even see my value in this world in any way. And all of these are deep, deep soul wounds. These are deep soul wounds from other lifetimes or other dimensions, from times where I spoke up and I was killed for it, from times where I shared my gifts and I was enslaved for it, or whatever it is. And all of us, literally every single one of us, has these types of soul wounds, but not all of us are experiencing the pain of these soul wounds in the form of depression and anxiety or reactive behaviors in our everyday life. I thought that healing my depression would mean that I would never ever feel sad again. But I've realized that this is actually not true at all, and I really want to make a point to talk about this. Healing your depression and healing in general does not mean that you never ever feel overwhelm or anxiety or stress or sadness ever again. I still feel a lot of those dark feelings. In fact, I probably feel a lot more of those dark feelings now at this point in my spiritual awakening, now that I'm aware of it all, rather than what I was feeling before. But I'd much rather feel it consciously now than having myself experience it subconsciously and feeling so reactive and having so many conflicts and like stress in my everyday life because of it. So I never want to mislead anyone in thinking that healing your depression means that will never ever feel a negative way ever again, because I honestly do still have rough days. I do still have rough times and rough chapters or rough emotional states. I still get upset. I live a really passionate and aligned life. I care about the things that I do. And if you care about yourself and if you care about your life, you are going to get upset in your life. But the difference now is that I no longer want to end it all when I feel upset. I don't feel that way at all. I actually feel the complete opposite. I feel like I am here in order to be a vessel of all of this energy, emotions, feelings, thoughts, all of it is just energy in motion moving through my body, which is my physical vessel. I truly believe that I am here for a reason and that I'm here to shine, and I'm here to shine through all of my challenges and all of my obstacles, even though they are challenging and sometimes it causes me to continuously expand my comfort zone. But deep, deep down, I've done the inner soul work through meditation, therapy, plant medicine journeys, etc., to deeply know that I am here for a reason and that I am here to shine and to shine brightly and to shine unapologetically. And when I experience a trigger, I like to think of it like rain. And if I am here as the sun shining God's light, my inner light in this world, and then I'm experiencing a trigger, stress, fear, whatever it is, and I'm experiencing some rain, I actually think of that as an even more beautiful expression of myself. I see that as getting to express myself as a rainbow in this world, right? The sun meets rain, turns you into a rainbow. So I no longer try to run away from all of these feelings. And a big, big part of that was doing the deep inner work. I can't tell you how many plant medicine journeys, past life regressions, deep shadow work, dark work that I had to do in order to be able to see my pain from all of these different lifetimes and be able to see the pain of this world, the pain in our government, the pain in the Save the Children movement, and all of this stuff, and to see it all and to look at myself and be like, yeah, that freaking makes sense that you feel depressed. It freaking makes sense that you don't want to be here feeling all of this. And so, yeah, I had to really look at it all, and I had to allow it to integrate into my purpose. I had to allow myself to break down over and over again. And when I allowed myself to really feel that pain, that is what allowed it to be my purpose. So the transmutation happens in this way. You look at the shit, you look at the really dark stuff, and you sit with it and you look at it and you choose to see the beauty in it and ask yourself, what am I here? Why am I seeing this? What is this even for? And through that, God showed me even more of my soul purpose, because I truly believe that I've been in my soul purpose ever since I started this work when I was 8 or 9 years old. But throughout this journey of having more and more spiritual awakenings, of being so dedicated to seeing yourself the way that God sees you, God reveals to you even more of your soul purpose. Whether you are religious or not, I actually became religious throughout this whole journey and experience. It's completely okay if you're not religious. You can achieve your soul purpose or see your soul purpose through hypnotherapy, through so many different things. But even with these proven practices that are scientifically based and scientifically proven, I truly believe that it's God that shows us these visions of what our soul purpose really is. And we have to get ready. We have to show God and show the universe that we are ready to know our soul purpose, that we are looking at the dark stuff, that we are asking the right questions, that we are putting our feet where we say that they're going to be. We're not just talking the talk without walking the walk. The more I showed up for myself in my everyday life, the more I invested money in myself in past life regressions, in online coaching. I did all of my healing literally from the comfort of my own home. There is so much available virtually right now. I run my entire practice virtually, where I have group classes, I have a membership, I have a full library of practices. There is truly so much available for you in this day and age. You do not have to go to a retreat or to the Amazon or to some far-fetched place in order to find your soul's answers. I also want to say that for myself, I truly don't believe that this would have been possible if I had continued my use of medication. When I was diagnosed with CPTSD, depression, ADHD, all of these things, at 8 years old, at 18 years old, etc., because I was continuously in care, so I was continuously being diagnosed and prescribed more and more medications, and eventually I stopped taking them, and I made a decision to set a boundary and to give myself a chance to really, really heal naturally and holistically. And had I continued to try to take medication or try to keep my foot in both the medical route as well as the holistic route, I don't believe that this transformation would have been possible for me. I do work with people that are currently on medications, and they see an incredible transformation with every single session. So it is possible for you, and this is why I'm not saying that you have to follow my path. But it would honestly be an injustice for me to gatekeep those things or to not share those things openly and transparently with you. When I was on medication, it really felt like it was a damper on feeling anything and everything, which is what I needed at the time. And if you feel like you need that, I strongly, strongly support you using medication. But eventually I realized that I was here to experience the full range of life, of emotions, to not just experience a edited or refined experience of life, if that makes sense. So that's what inspired me to get off medication and to really go all in holistic and natural healing. I wish that I could list out to you all of the practices that I used that really made a huge, huge difference in going all the way from literally wanting to leave this planet and my body and not seeing a purpose in any of it, to feeling my purpose and my vision every single moment of every single day, even on the bad days. Like, I'm so, so proud of that. I cannot even tell you. That is the greatest accomplishment of my life. I feel so proud of it every single day because it's been such a journey and I made it. I made it to the other side of truly feeling like I know deep down in every cell in my being that I'm here for a reason, and that none of these thoughts or feelings could ever deter me or ever get in my way ever again. And I really, really want to stress that and make that clear. These thoughts and feelings will still try to creep in and get me, but I now have practices and methods, like, they cannot get me. I feel grounded 100% of the time. I feel healthy 100% of the time. I feel mentally healthy. And I'm so grateful to be able to say that. And if you've experienced a lifetime of ups and downs, then you might be envious of me saying this, or maybe if you've already done the healing, then you maybe know how this feels, because it is wild. I know that not many people have done the work to be able to stand on the other side of all of the things that have held them back and just be like, thank you for trying to hold me back. Thank you to my depression. Thank you to my OCD. Thank you for all of the CPTSD, for all of the trauma. It is wild to be able to say that. Thank you, because it made me into the person that I am today. And the person that I am today is someone that I love so, so much. I'm literally tearing up as I'm saying that, because I love her so much. And just like in my deepest desires for you and for the whole world, I just want for everyone to be able to feel that love for themselves, to see that they are of value, to see that they're here for a reason, that the struggles and obstacles that are put in your path are not just put there to throw you off, but they're put there for a reason. And it's all to make you into the person that maybe you couldn't imagine for yourself, but the person that you were always meant to be and that you were created to be. I had to take a little break from recording because honestly, all of my software just instantly crashed after I recorded that last clip. And I wouldn't normally talk about this, but I just want to mention something since we are talking about it. These are some of the things that used to drive me absolutely crazy in the past. I used to feel like I'm up against invisible forces that are literally just trying to get in my way and constantly crashing my software right when I need it to work the most and things like that. But the truth of the matter is that all of that is actually true. I am up against invisible forces to just share this honest and vulnerable story with you. And so often we are up against invisible forces from our ancestors, from the world around us, or whatever it could be, without even realizing that we are. And we blame ourselves because we don't realize that we're fighting a spiritual battle and that we're actually in a spiritual warfare. I stopped seeing my mental health issues as problems that I was having with myself, and I started to see them as evidence of spiritual warfare. That's how I was able to start to actually learn my soul gifts and learn how to use them for my own benefit and for the benefit of others. When I developed the mindset that every single thing I'm experiencing is something I'm meant to experience and I'm meant to learn and grow from, I was revealed so much about myself, about my lineage, about the world. I started channeling, psychic, clairvoyance, all of this stuff. There's so many different words for it. And so many people who are experiencing an extremely high level of stress, depression, anxiety, or mental health struggles are actually people who have incredible soul gifts who just don't know what they are experiencing. When you have an incredible gift that you haven't been trained or taught about, you can imagine that you feel like something's wrong with you. You can imagine that you feel like a Martian, you feel weird, you feel like you just know deep down that there's something different or off about you, that you're too sensitive for this world. But all of these things are also symptoms of an incredibly gifted person. And you can ask for your soul gifts to be turned on. You can ask for these to be turned on by doing nervous system regulation practices, by doing neuroscience practices, by adopting a more holistic, devoted, and healthy lifestyle. I wish I could list out to you all of the practices that completely helped me, but I cannot do that in just a single podcast episode. That's what led me to create our whole entire library of all of the practices that you could possibly need to feeling your soul purpose, to feeling your alignment and your soul gifts, and having clarity and empowerment through all of this. Inside my virtual library, you can have the time and space to really dive deep into these practices, to try different practices out and experience an instant transformation for yourself. If any of this episode resonated with you today, I really want to support you in implementing this for yourself. I have so many different ways for us to stay connected. I strongly encourage you to join our free email community of over 2,000 incredible conscious souls. Inside our email community, I don't just share practices that can help you, but I also share ways that you can join our membership and get access to my library, as well as when I have openings for my spiritual coaching and holistic healing programs. My next group coaching program is starting on April 1st, and this is a sacred container where we can dive deep into these topics as well as other taboo topics that aren't really openly discussed in society or on social media, topics surrounding conscious sexuality, topics surrounding living a devotional life, as well as holistic healing. And in this program, I'm sharing with you my proven system of experiencing an orgasmic meditation and also knowing how to use the practice of orgasmic meditation to create a life that truly feels like an orgasmic life. You can learn about this group program, my upcoming astrology ceremonies, our membership, and access to my entire library, as well as my signature one-on-one programs for women that give you access to plant medicine guidance and so much more, all in the description box down below. Thank you so much for taking the time to hear my sacred story, for reflecting on your own story, and doing the work to become the best version of yourself. I really appreciate sharing this time together, and I really appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your journey. So I'm sending you love and blessings and health and healing in your mind, in your heart, in every single cell of your being. And thank you. I will see you in our next episode.